New stimulus checks released. The wait is over. History repeats itself. Guys, there are households here in our country that got through the worst part of the health crisis through stimulus checks. And with cash flow as it is right now and expenses just going through the roof, many wonder if another stimulus check would be beneficial for us. And guess what? Some states are actually going to be providing checks yet again. This one has already sent them out.
I'm going to start with, and you'll hear from some of these folks, but first of all to Commissioner Marquardt and his team at Revenue for doing some incredible work, getting themselves ready to put money in the bank accounts last evening of tens of thousands of Minnesotans, and over the next several weeks, 2.1 million families. Special thank you to the chairs of our tax committee, Senator Rest and Chair Gomez. Incredible work of putting together one of the most expansive, largest tax cut proposals in Minnesota history, and I would say and much more targeted to improve the lives of Minnesotans across this state. Today, as we said last night, checks up to $1,300 began arriving in Minnesotans' bank accounts. You'll hear from Commissioner Marquardt about specifics on that. Payments were, and it was our goal to get them out at a time when we've got back to school going on. We've got students you're going to hear from. We have parents you're going to hear from about how they can use this money to make life a little bit simpler for them.
Yes, that was Governor Tim Walz discussing their more than $1.1 billion worth of checks that will either be received through the mail or directly to bank accounts of Minnesotans who desperately need a pick-me-up as we go through this. I'm not sure how to describe it these days. This incredibly difficult economy, because I see the comments, folks, and I understand expenses have gone up and it's super crazy. Individuals should expect somewhere between $260 checks per person on up to $1,300 checks for the household. Now, their revenue department expects that around 2.1 million rebate payments, just like what Walz said, will be distributed until the end of September. Now, it's not just Minnesota. Other states and other areas in the country are still to this day, they're sending out their own variation of stimulus checks. Take California, for example. They have a program that's called Middle Class Tax Refund, and it aims to provide anywhere from $200 to $1,050 checks, depending upon the adjusted gross income of a resident of the state. Their filing status and whether or not that they have a dependent will also play a role in how big that check is going to be. Now, a majority of these payments, they have gone out, but there are some that are still in review. So if you think that you should receive this payment, it would be best that you get in contact with the FTB or the Franchise Tax Board in California. Now, in Washington state, eligible recipients of their stimulus check can get up to $1,200. And the best part is that you can actually apply for this credit until the last day of the year. All you need is your social security number or your individual taxpayer identification number together with a copy of your federal tax return. Now, of course, you're also going to be needing to provide more of your personal information, but it would be best to check with the Washington Department of Revenue's website to confirm all of that. So that's a pretty official source. You can go there. Now, with that being said, I do advise that you guys don't do this alone, especially if you're not that tech savvy. I mean, it's pretty clear that there's a lot of scams out there. I mean, heck, just look at the scammers in the comments down below. Stay away from those guys. There's some out there that will ask for some very similar information to what I told you about, just a moment ago. But instead of getting your money, they're probably just going to be taking your money. You know what I mean? So yeah, approach this with a level head. All right, guys. Now, if you understood that, make sure you smash the like button. And also while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate you guys. Now, this brings me to level-headed Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and her view of a possible recession. It's amazing how differently she answers within just a few months apart. So this is what she said earlier on this year.
Those jobs numbers seem to defy predictions of a recession this year. Do you still think one is likely?
Well, look, you don't have a recession when you have 500,000 jobs and the lowest unemployment rate in more than 50 years. So what I see is a path in which inflation is declining significantly and the economy is remaining strong.
Journalists should really just stop asking her questions about the economy because it just feels as if whatever she says, the opposite happens, Now, if anybody has noted that, please comment it down below because I can't be the only one who's saying this. By the way, if you own a home, make sure your home is protected. Get your free home warranty quote. There's a link in the description down below. Now, this leads me to how she changed her tune within just a span of, it was like 4 or 5 months.
Is the risk of recession completely off the table from your point of view? I mean, where do you put the odds?
It's not completely off the table, but we would expect with the job market as strong as it is now to see a slower pace of ongoing job gains. prime age labor force participation is at the highest level in several decades. So we've seen this strong job market attract workers back to it.
So now a recession isn't off the table. Wow, funny how that works. So here's the thing about recessions. Like, scratch that. Here's the thing about the Great Recession back in 2008, 2009, all right? So back then we hit a huge bump with our economic train, and that bump was the housing bubble. And well, things became very, very complicated when it burst.
In the run-up to the 2008 financial crisis, a few savvy skeptics understood what would later become obvious. The mortgage market was teetering on the brink of collapse. One of the investors who saw it coming now believes financial disaster could be brewing in the housing market yet again. This time, the threat is from flooding.
This one is better.
Dave Burt, who was profiled in Michael Lewis's best-selling book The Big Short and saw one of his colleagues played by Brad Pitt in the movie adaptation, says the fallout from flood risk could resemble the extraordinary correction seen 15 years ago.
And then that happens.
What is that?
That's America's housing market.
Did you feel that perhaps Brad Pitt maybe was more better suited to playing you?
I don't know. I think he did a great job. It was a really entertaining movie, even though they might not have gotten every technical point exactly right. I thought it was a good explainer movie for that whole saga.
This time, Burt says that flooding is easily among the most mispriced climate hazards in the US real estate market, especially for single-family properties.
Our base case correction scenario leads to home value losses of about $800 billion in aggregate terms. So a pretty meaningful hit, even to a $40 trillion market.
Flooding is recognized as the most common natural disaster in the US.
So by February of 2008, the IRS announced that the Treasury will start to send out what they called as economic stimulus payments. Yeah, they sent stimulus checks out back in 2008 and 2009. Then they did it again roughly 10 years later. And they're still doing it now based on the information we just covered, which worked very much like the stimulus checks that we received in the recent years. Now, with that logic, if they announce a recession, and believe me when I say we've most probably been in one for some time now, then they should probably also release leftover money from the health crisis. What am I talking about? This. Now, in terms of legislative action, $300 billion is still left over, which, if I do the math, could still provide at least $1,000 stimulus check to a lot of Americans. How much would that affect your budget right now? Like, how big of a factor will this play into how you go about your day-to-day lives? Now, for somebody who's loaded, it's probably not that much money. But for those who truly need the money, this could be life-changing money. Now, the question is, what are they waiting for? Are they waiting for 2024? Or, and I hope this isn't the case, the money's already gone somewhere else, maybe to a galaxy far, far away, or maybe just to another country far, far away, like the Ukraine. But who knows? What do you guys think? Should the federal government get to work to provide financial aid to the people here at home? Or are things far better now that we don't even need that money? Make sure you guys share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Before I go, I just want to thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for subscribing. Don't forget to get your free home warranty quote link in the description down below, and I'll see you on the next one.